Hey, good afternoon, wherever you are. Glad you are here on Daily Distinction. I just got off. I was speaking at the Digital Talk Forum, right before we went on. So it's jumping from one into the other. Glad you are here. Hope everybody is having a good Friday. And Bruce, thanks for asking. How you doing? Been a busy week. You know, that's one of the really interesting things that's going on right now is that as the world is changing, holy cow, the virtual meetings are going crazy. I'm sure with your video group, maybe that's one of the things that you're finding is that things are bouncing around, man. They're really happening, and just trying to figure things out in this changing time. This was a global. It was organized out of Dubai. And we had a couple hundred participants all over the world in the program I was speaking to earlier today. So pretty crazy. I hope we're doing all we can with the internet. I talked for a long time with Cox, my cable provider. Did not get good answers, but we're working with it. So let me know how we're doing. Dwayne, is great, as always, great to see you. Glad that you are here. Hey, Carrie, one of our great viewers of the show that we do on Sunday night, the Ken and Glenn show with a guy named Scott. So, Carrie, thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. Paul, thanks all the way over in the UK, watching in the evening. They're not too far from London. Really glad that you are here with us today, Paul. Ken, that's good to know. Let's hope it. Fingers crossed. Let's hope it stays that way. We did some talking and working with Cox, and we'll see how Cox Cable does for us. So anyway, so really glad to see that you're here, and really glad that you're tuning in. We'll give everybody a minute to come on board and to be a part of this. So having some challenge here over on the Instagram side. So let's get that fixed here real quick as we're going along. Anyway, don't know if you saw this morning, but my great friend Larry Winget was on Fox and Friends this morning, and it's something that Larry does there every year, and it took me back to a time that that I did commencement programs. I have been fortunate enough to be the speaker at some college commencements. I've done several community college commencements, and I can't even begin to tell you how many high school commencements I've had the privilege of speaking to. So Larry talked today about what he would say if he was doing a program for commencements in this year, and it just kind of inspired me to think of what I would say. So before I tell you what I would say if I was doing a commencement speech this year, I'd be interested to know what do you think? What would you tell graduates today if you were speaking to a commencement event today? Hey, Ted, great to see you. Talene. Oh, but I know I haven't seen you here very many days in a row. So glad that you are watching today. And hey, to Brian Fanzo, who's been a guest on the show. He's watching on Instagram right now. Juice, so good to see you. Thank you for being here on Instagram as well. So I think it'd be fascinating to know what you would tell graduates, or what were you told at your commencement? Do you remember anything that you were told at your commencement? You know, as a speaker, I always thought that commencements were one of the most interesting speeches that you could do. And the reason is simply this: no one goes there to hear the speaker. I'm serious. Unless the speaker brings her husband or spouse, partner, whatever, no one is at that event to hear the speaker. At every commencement I've spoken to, and I've probably done 40 commencement programs in my life, no one said, "Come on, honey, we've got to get to the commencement because there's going to be a speaker there and we want to hear him." No one ever goes to a commencement to hear the speaker. They go to see their family member in the cap and gown walk across the stage. So that's what we're doing, right? That's what we're doing. So what we need to do is to think about, first of all, the fact is these people prepare. I don't care if Oprah was your commencement speaker. You didn't go to the commencement to see Oprah. You went to the commencement to see your child or your family member, your brother, your sister, whatever. You went to see them walk across the stage. So nobody goes to see the speaker. So what we have to do is to think about, what did our commencement speakers say? Because commencement speakers, I will promise you, spend so much time, so much work to get just the right words, and the right words that nobody remember. And so I went back, I found my high school graduation thing, and I found some notes from that. My high school commencement speaker was Dr. R. Ambrose McQuigg III. I would not have remembered that had I not looked it up. And I don't know what he said. I know that he said it, but I don't know what he said. So there you go. That was my high school commencement. My college commencement, the speaker was George Daup, and I remember that because he was the president of Indiana Farm Bureau, and he was a friend of mine. And I remember being embarrassed because he referred to me several times during his speech, which was an honor. But you know how it is when you're a member of the class and somebody picks you out and you feel uncomfortable because of the rest of the class. So I remember that it was so nice to be able to do that and to experience that. But I remember the time being a little bit embarrassed because he mentioned me but the guy was the only person in the class that he knew, right? So that was something. Hey to everybody, we got a bunch of folks watching on Instagram as well. So you can't see the screen as I'm talking because of the different formats, but thank you for being here. Dwayne, yeah, you're right. I can't even imagine what it would be like to not have a graduation. I mean, you think about this year's senior class. If you're talking about high school, they didn't even get a prom, much less a graduation. There's so many things that make your senior year that they have missed out on. It's really remarkable. And even in college, you anticipate the graduation, and there's all kinds of, fraternity, sorority activities or student activities, all of that. I'm on the in-residence faculty at High Point University. And I just think of all the things that all of those students that I've been talking to at High Point have missed out on. And it's really, really tragic. Ken would say if he was speaking at commencement, he'd say, way to go, you ruined history. And Carrie, you have that right. That's why we can't take Ken anywhere. Terry, I remember what your undergrad commencement. Jesse Jackson was your undergrad commencement. Wow. Yeah, there you go. See, we're so thrilled just to finally be done that even if your commencement speaker is somebody famous like Jesse Jackson, it's hard to remember what they said, right? It's hard to remember. So I was thinking, obviously, I'm not speaking at any commencements this year, and it's always such a privilege to be asked because, in fact, first of all, you know that nobody's really going to remember what you say. Second thing, as a speaker, a lot of times I'm hired and they say, we want you to go 60 minutes or 90 minutes with your keynote. You're standing, you got that. Commencements, you could, if you go 60 minutes, they're going to shoot you in the head. I mean, because they're often in a hot gymnasium or outside on a humid day. I remember speaking at one commencement at high school, and it was on the football field. And so this is really old, but the old movie about Lou Gehrig, and he's at Yankee Stadium and he's saying his farewell address, and it goes, today, and then you hear the speakers go, today. I consider myself and the echo that comes back. So when you're speaking on a football field, you say the word, but the speakers are all the way across the grandstands. So then you hear yourself back about a second after you said, so you say something, and it's so hard to maintain your train of thought as you're trying to be profound and say a few words to the students. So usually commencements are held in places that aren't really comfortable in many situations. I mean, sometimes they're in an auditorium, but even one of my stepsons graduated. His program was in one of the hottest gymnasiums I've ever sat in, and there's 5,000 people in this hot gym, and oh my gosh, it was great to see him go across the stage. But I remember when the speaker got up, the speaker side of me has compassion for this person. The step parent part of me is thinking, I hope this guy doesn't talk too long, right? So I was trying to think, okay, what if I was asked this year to give a commencement speech? And in this strange, crazy year that we are having, what would my commencement speech be? And I think there are 5 things. I know there are 5 things that I would tell this year's class that would be a little different from what previous classes might have heard because of the crazy, challenging time that we're in, but also simultaneously how things are changing and what we're going to get back to. If you watch often, you've heard me talk a little bit about how I don't believe in what people are saying about the new normal. Because if something is new, it doesn't feel like normal. And if something is normal, that means it can't be new. So how do we progress from here? So here's what I would say at a commencement speech, the 5 points I'd like for students to remember, and hopefully you can take something from this. Maybe you want to share it if you have somebody in school with your family that you want to share it around. But here are the 5 things. Number 1, it's okay not to know what you want to do. It's really all right. We tend in education, and we tend as parents, and we tend in life to put a lot of pressure on young people to know what they want to do for the rest of their lives. You're going to be a doctor, or you're going to be a teacher, or you're going to be this, or you're going to be that. And we put so much pressure on people to know what it is that they want to do before they're ready to make that decision. It's really okay not to know what you want to do. And if there's anything that we're learning from the crisis that has canceled your commencement, if there's anything that we've learned from what we're going through right now, it is that times are going to change no matter what. So maybe what you want to do is going to be dramatically, drastically altered by situations you couldn't anticipate. Hey, my career is an example of that right now. And for those of you watching, I know that some of the folks that are watching, same has happened to you. All I ever wanted to be was somebody that gave speeches to big events, and the bigger the event, that meant the more successful I was as a speaker. That's gone. It may return during my career lifetime. I hope it does. I think it will. But if all I ever wanted to do was this, and I wasn't prepared to try to learn something else to do, what would life be? So in other words, what we have to understand is it's okay not to know what you want to do, because life may change that. When I graduated from high school and I first started at the college I went to, which is Franklin College in Indiana, I was convinced I wanted to be an attorney. More than anything else, I thought at that particular moment of my life, that was where life was going to lead me. Then I got into college and I took a couple pre-law courses. I spent time with lawyers. I spent time with a lawyer's office, thanks to my aunt that worked in one. And I decided about the last thing in the world I wanted to be was a lawyer. Nothing against lawyers, just wasn't for me. Now, if I would have stuck with that and not allowed myself the privilege of knowing that it's okay not to know what you want to do, I would have taken myself down a path that at some point I would have had to get off the path. I don't know when, but I'm so glad I didn't waste time there. See, it's okay not to know what you want to do. It's important to know what you do not want to do. See, and that's the other point. While it's okay not to know what you want to do, it's really important to know what you don't want to do. Because the saddest people that I met in my life are the people that feel trapped, that they've been trapped in a career or trapped in a life that they didn't care for. Steve Jobs talked about that in his famous, I should say, commencement speech at Stanford, where he said the saddest life, or this paraphrasing him, but the saddest thing is to spend your life leading a life that is based on what someone else wants you to do. It's really important to know what you don't want to do. It's okay that you don't know what you do want to do, but it's really important. It's even more important, I think, sometimes to know what you don't want to do, because it's so easy to get trapped because you start making a little bit of money, or you find yourself married and kids, or you find yourself in a situation. And if you didn't know that that's what you didn't want to do, you might find yourself trapped there. So one of the first things you want to do is the process of elimination. What are some things that you don't want to do? For example, if you don't, I know people that are on the front line dealing with customers that really, really don't want to be there. They really don't want to be on the front line and as a customer service representative or somebody dealing with customers. That's not what they want. That's not where they want to be. And they hate being there. And guess what? It shows. When I called the helpline at Cox Cable yesterday, it was all I could do to bite my tongue and not say, by the way, have you ever looked up the word help in the dictionary? That person was in a job I know, the first person I talked to was in a job I know that they don't want to do. Can you imagine how miserable their personal life is when their professional life is every day, hours a day, doing something that makes them miserable? Now, look, I understand, I realize, and I encourage you to do hard work. Life is not going to be a bowl of cherries. Life is not going to be the rose garden. But at the same time, you can do the hard work and you can put in the hours and you can be frustrated, at least in a process that helps you understand that's not something you want to spend your life doing. I spent over a year in an office job, almost 2 years in an office job. And every day I thought, I don't want to do this. Now, some might say that's a wasted couple years. I tend to think of it as two of the most important years of my life because it really set me on the path that I followed. I realized that I had to move forward with what my plans are because I hated what I was doing so much. I had to move on and do something else. That's motivation. So it's really, really important that you know what you do not want to do. But at the same time, it's important to do something. You got to learn and grow. You've heard me talk here many times about the great experience I had as a member of FFA. And the motto of FFA, the student organization, is something I still take to heart to this day. Here's the motto: learning to do. In other words, we're going to learn how to do what's important in life. But the second one is doing to learn. We're going to actually do things, and the function of doing them will teach us more about it. You see online here, I mentioned Ken Walls' great class on live streaming. I'm learning more about live streaming. How am I learning it? I'm learning it by doing it. So we not only learn to do, but we do to learn. By the actual doing, we learn. And so if you think that sitting back saying, well, I know I don't want to do that, and I know I don't want to do that, and I know I don't want to do that, is going to move you forward, inaction never moves you forward. Action is the only thing that will move you forward. What you have to do is to take action of some kind. Let's catch up on a couple comments. Ken says, I'm still not sure what I want to do. Yeah, that's right. Ken, it's more important to know what you don't want to do for the rest of your life. And finding out works great. 90% not using their degree what it was intended for. Yes, that's the point. And Carrie, but is that necessarily a bad thing? I would rather folks not use, my degree's in political science. I would rather be doing what I'm doing now than doing politics. But it took me those years and a candidacy for state office in Indiana to understand that. So the rest of my life was happier after I figured that out. I think one of the things that college teaches us, it should teach us, is not just what our degree is in, but college should teach us into how to learn, not just what to learn. And learning is so critical. Yes, Ellen, it's important to know how you want to be. And hang on, I'm going to get to that in a minute. Thanks, Jesse. I appreciate that very, very much. Thank you. Bruce, I didn't want to be a salesperson, so I hired one. Yeah, there you go. Bruce, I'm in sales every day, as you know, with what I do, but it doesn't feel like the sales when I was selling advertising for a radio station because it just feels different. I didn't want to be a sales professional full time. That just wasn't what did it for me. But now that I'm involved in something else, getting sales and doing that is really cool. You know, so yeah, I'm with you. I'm in the same boat. Gary, yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. And Ken, as always, I appreciate it and appreciate what we do with the show on Sunday nights. So do something. You got to take some kind of action. I'm big on internships. I'm whether they pay you or not, you'll be paid more for what you learn than what they can ever pay you in compensation. Anything that you can do to do something for any person is absolutely critical. It's vital. It's what we have to do. And that leads to number 4, which is one of the hardest for many people, particularly at the time of their life of graduation. And that is you got to think of others first. One of the things I talk about in my upcoming book that's coming out in August is that when people graduate and they get into the world of work and they start doing interviews, for many, some of the first questions they're asking in their interviews is, how much do I get paid? What's a vacation time? In other words, what will your organization do for me? The people who get the best jobs and the people who do the best in the marketplace are those who go out and say, how can I take what skills and talents I have now and help your organization? Because I know that if I help your organization is going to help me learn and grow to make me more valuable so that I become more valuable to you. When we think of others first, whether it is our spouse or our employer or our colleagues or our whatever, it gets more, it goes back to the Zig Ziglar line that's been quoted so much it's a cliche. When you help, you can get anything in life that you want. You can get anything in life that you want when you help others get what they want. But I see so many that go and say, what's in it for me? Before they can say, what can I bring to you? On Instagram, Brian Fanzo was saying, I appreciate that. I had to learn how to detach from things I didn't want to do 3 years into college. Oh, Brian, that is so good, right? Because I know so many folks, I went to school with folks, whose parents had been a dentist and grandparents had been a dentist, and now they were in school and they get into it and they realize they don't want to be a dentist, but I'm almost out of school. How can I quit now? Well, when are you going to quit? 10 years into a career that you're unhappy with? When does that happen, right? And so notice it's almost a conundrum. It's almost convoluted there in that I'm saying, do something for yourself so you can learn and grow, but think of others first. That sounds, but it's really not, because as you go out in the marketplace and as you're doing something, the advantage that you can have is when you think of others first, it helps you. So think about what you can do for others. What can you bring? And by the way, are you noticing these aren't necessarily things that are reserved for people that are just now graduating? These are important messages for all of us, but think of others first. We see that right now with what's going on with the pandemic. There are some folks that think of themselves. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get out. I'm going to make, and we see others that are going, how do my actions impact the community? How do my actions impact other members of my family? How do my actions impact others? That's not being cowardly. That's being considerate. So how do my actions impact others? When we think of others first, we tend to make better long-term decisions for ourselves. So think of others first. And then fifth, if it's not fatal, it's fixable. When I became a stepdad and I'm trying to talk to my 2 stepsons, one of the things I said is, we can fix anything but death. Pardon me. I'm fine. It's not coronavirus. It's all the stuff got blown around in here in Vegas. I can't fix dead. We can fix everything else. We can't fix dead. If it's not fatal, it's fixable. I don't care what's happened to you in life. I do care, but regardless of what's happened to you in life, if it's not fatal, it's fixable. A great friend of mine, Chuck, is a terrific speaker, and he is a convicted felon. And he talks about, what he did to turn his life around. I think of so many folks that have had Chad Hymas, my great friend, a quadriplegic, travels the world giving speeches about resilience and overcoming obstacles. My buddy Roger Crawford, who a thalidomide baby, born with one leg and challenged deformed hands and won tournaments in tennis, not for disabled handicap, for regular won tennis tournaments in college in the NCAA. Talking about how you can overcome anything. If it's not fatal, it's fixable. You can find a way to fix anything if you're willing to do what it takes and put in enough time and make it happen. Let's catch up with a couple of. Hey, here's my buddy Dan LeClaire. Oh man, Dan, you're right. Our first jobs were Frank Bentz, who showed us what it's like to love a job. We didn't want to do his job, but we learned to. Yep. I don't. Dan, I'm so glad you brought that up, because our boss Frank at Franklin College, when we worked there, I don't know that I've known anyone who got up every morning and loved what he did as much as Frank did. And Frank's boss was not somebody that you would love to work for, right? So Frank did that and exemplified that. In spite of him having, we got to report to Frank, but Frank had to report to somebody that not necessarily made you love what was going on. And that's a great point. That's a great point. We didn't want to do his job, but we learned that how important it is. And you're right. Frank is somebody too that I really learned how important that it is to love what you do. Hey, Jolie, thank you for being here. I'm Scott, and I'm really glad that you're here. Thank you for taking time to be here. Jesse's worked for the same company for 38 years. Yeah, and Jesse, that's an important point as well. Sometimes it's not the company, that you don't want to be a part of. It's that particular responsibility within that company. And maybe you can be extremely happy with your same company, just doing something else. So don't give up on the company simply because there might be a job along the way that you don't want to do. Thanks, Carrie. Talene, yes, think of others first. That's what we have to do. Oh, there you go, Dwayne. When you graduate from the School of Hard Knocks to the University of Common Sense, that's when you're well on the way. Hey, here's Sherry from back home. Don't be the guy who we was asking an interview what motivates you to get up in the morning, and the answer is my alarm clock. Oh, man, that's right. If your alarm clock is your motivating factor in the morning, you need another reason to be getting up. There's no doubt about it. Ellen, if not going to the prom is all it's unfair, there are many right in your backyards, folks, maybe your parents who are putting on a good front. Be thankful that the prom is the worst thing in your life. Yeah, isn't it interesting, Ellen, how some of the things in our life that were so important, we look back now and realize it really wasn't that big a deal. Some of the things when I was a kid that were so important to me, I look back now and think, what was I thinking? That was nothing big, but then we realize it's all about where we are at what particular point we are in life. Hey, Letitia and I worked together at Wish TV in Indianapolis, and Letitia wanted to be an actor. One semester at Butler, realized it wasn't for me. Mom suggested that I dovetail that theater background into journalism, and it clicked. You're so great on the air too, Letitia. Wouldn't have considered it. I have many odds and ends jobs after leaving TV, using your skills. I did. Okay, great. Many new skills that will help me post television. I wouldn't have even considered this. And Letitia, there you go too. You bring up such a critical point in that, we hear constantly life is short, and compared to the age of the world, life is short. But in some ways, life can be long, right? I mean, my mom, she's 90. Life can be long, and by that I mean, how many years do you want to spend either doing the same thing, even if you love it? How many years you want to do doing the same thing, or what happens when life changes and you can't do that anymore? Life is long enough. We got to reinvent ourselves. We got to figure out new ways and new styles and new approaches and what you're doing is so fantastic. That is really, really great. Sonia, no matter what job we do, yeah, that's important. Do it well. Yeah, if you love what you do, it's not work. I'm with you 100%. Hey, Ted, thanks. I like that. Yep, yep, absolutely. So here's the final point of all this. We're talking about a commencement. And I think the most overlooked thing at a commencement is simply this. The word commence means to begin, right? Our commencement ceremony is held at the end of a particular juncture, whether it's our high school graduation or a college graduation, whatever it might be. So therefore, we've incorrectly thought of a commencement as an ending, right? The commencement ceremony means it's the end of our high school, or the commencement ceremony means it's the end of our college. But in fact, the word commence means to begin. And so for everyone, I would suggest that each day is a commencement. It is the beginning of what comes next. So for all of our graduates, whether we're talking about a high school graduate, or whether we're talking about a college graduate, or whether we're talking about you and me, whatever stage we are in life, our commencement means it's time for a beginning. And no matter where you are, no matter what you're doing, I just remind you that it's okay not to know what you want to do right now, because it's just as important to know what you don't want to do. And as long as we're doing something, learning and growing, we can get to a point where we're doing what we desire. When we think of others first, not only do we become better at what we do, but we create a great long-term strategy for ourselves and develop a reservoir of goodwill that helps us get promoted and do the things that we want and need to do. If it's not fatal, it's fixable. If it doesn't kill you, then there's a way to get out of it. And I don't mean get out of it in a sneaky way. I don't mean get out of it in an unethical way. I mean to move beyond it. If it's not fatal, it's fixable. Because a commencement means it's time to begin. It's time to get started. It's time to go. That would be the commencement address that I would bring. Hey, my buddy Dan says one of the most important lists I ever learned was an ad client who said during a stressful time for both of us, I had 5 helicopters shot down from underneath me in Vietnam. Nobody dies over an ad campaign. Yeah, perspective is critical. That is so good, Dan. That is so true. Our perspective is absolutely critical to where we are in life. I don't care where you are or what you do. There's something in there that's gonna give you some perspective. So that's the commencement speech for today. And so it's time to take that tassel and move it to the other side here of our cap on our cap and gown right now. And it's time to move forward with our commencement. Hey, that's today's Daily Distinction. I look forward to, as you know, where I'm on here 7 days a week. So I look forward to talking to you again tomorrow. Going to be right here again tomorrow at 3 o'clock Eastern, noon Pacific. Please share this episode if you'd like for other people to hear those 6 points and to see the commencement speech. Share it if you would. That really helps us grow our audience. And thank you for watching today. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow on Daily Distinction.